Oh boy, I sure am excited to watch my favorite baseball team, the Detroit Tigers, play the Seattle Mariners in the ALDS or whatever it's called. I didn't start caring about baseball until just recently because the Tigers finally got good, so I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm definitely emotionally invested.
Oh, and the Tigers lose a heartbreaker to the Mariners. Boy, that sure does suck for anyone who recently got emotionally invested.
Oh well, at least Michigan plays USC tomorrow. Surely that will uplift my downtrodden spirits. Ah, there really is nothing like sitting on the couch with a cold beer watching Michigan football.
And USC scores another touchdown, making it 21-7. Up to this point, Michigan has had no offense to speak of whatsoever, making now a real good time to walk out of the room because you likely won't miss anything.
You know, that's actually a good idea. I have to go make the bed anyway.
Bryce Underwood has it complete to Andrew March, who takes it 69 yards for the touchdown.
Crap!
And the game is over. USC blows out Michigan 31-13. Boy, that sure is embarrassing and surely did not lift the spirits of anyone who recently became invested in Tigers baseball just to watch them lose and then hoping Michigan would make them feel better.
Okay. So this definitely hasn't been a good weekend so far, but the Detroit Lions are 4-1 and Kansas City might actually suck this year. So this is definitely going to be a great game.
Look at the way Patrick Mahomes runs 5 yards. Is there any quarterback in the NFL that can run 5 yards like that? I mean, that guy can basically walk on water. You know, I once saw him throw for over 1,000,000 yards in a game, and afterwards, he worked a shift at the local homeless shelter and single handedly fixed the hole in the ozone layer. I mean, Tom Brady could never.
Shut up!
And Kansas City dominates Detroit like we always knew they would. How about those Chiefs? Aren't Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift just the greatest, sweetest, and most wholesome couple you ever saw? Surely that relationship isn't just commercially convenient for both of them. And that Patrick Mahomes, I tell you what, that guy can raise the dead back to life and still have time to help deliver babies at the children's hospital. I mean, Joe Montana sucks eggs compared to that guy.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Michigan Wolverines Team Rivalry Show. Special thanks to my beautiful and amazing wife for that voiceover that you heard of the announcer in the intro. Took a lot of convincing to get her to do it, but she did it, and she, I think, totally nailed it. Definitely deserves an Oscar for her performance there, and she did it while carrying triplets. So truly an incredible performance. A lesser woman could not do that. So everybody give her a round of applause. I'm going to talk about the Michigan USC game, and if you don't want to talk about that as much as I don't want to, go ahead and give this video a like and possibly even subscribe. It's free. It would mean a lot to us. It really does help with the algorithm and all that, and we are trying to build up the channel to make some ad revenue to pay for all of the diapers, for all of the babies that we are expecting. Yes, we are actually, if anybody's wondering, actually expecting triplets. So, help. So let's get into Michigan versus USC. I figured I'd just offer some unstructured thoughts, especially in the wake of James Franklin getting fired from Penn State. There's a lot of talk going around. Is Sherrone Moore next? Is he on the hot seat? And I thought I would offer my thoughts on that. First off, I'm just going to say from the outset, under normal circumstances, I do not think that Sherrone Moore is on the hot seat, but we are not in normal circumstances anymore. I think my microphone's a little loud, so I'm going to turn it down here. The new environment of college football is, Steve Day said this on X, it's not run by the schools anymore. It's not run by the ADs anymore. The ADs don't have as much control over who's coaching the program. It is whoever's paying the bills. And from what it sounds like, now at first, it sounded a lot like Adidas played a role in the firing of James Franklin. The school has come out and said that that's not true, that it was the school that is footing the bill. Who do we believe? I don't know. But the thing is that money talks. And up until this point, it's not like James Franklin was a bad coach. Okay, I mean, you can look at his record against top 25 teams. You can look at his record against top 5 team or top 15 teams. You can look at his record the last 3 weeks, 3-3 with a team. I mean, and that's probably why he got fired. It is why he got fired. Was he went 3-3 with a team that was supposed to win the national championship? You can't do that. And on the heels of not being able to win the big game, of not making it very far in the playoffs and all that. Well, actually, they did make it pretty far in the playoffs. It's weird because he's the best coach to ever get. It feels like he's the best coach to ever get fired for poor performance, which is just a wild thing to consider. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my levels here in real time. And why am I talking about that in the context of Sherrone Moore? Because Sherrone Moore went 8-4 his first season. He is now 4-2 this season. The narrative coming into this season was kind of back and forth. Michigan has everything that they need to go 12-0. Oklahoma ended up being a lot better than we thought they would be. USC as well. Frankly, so did a couple of the other teams Michigan played. New Mexico, for instance. And Michigan's issues on offense don't seem to be completely solved. However, I will say that it is still a marked improvement over what happened last season. So I personally am hesitant to say that Sherrone Moore should be on the hot seat. But in the modern age of college football, is Sherrone Moore on the hot seat? I think the answer might be yes. And I've heard from a couple of other pundits, Josh Pate, for instance, who are talking about it. If Michigan goes 9-3, especially if they go 8-4, but even if Michigan goes 9-3, Michigan might be looking at making a change at head coach. And if that happens, Josh Pate said he wouldn't be surprised. I would be. I would be. Now, look, 9-3 is an interesting proposition. If Michigan loses to Washington, I think 8-4 is pretty likely, because at that point, conventional logic says, how do you beat Ohio State? Obviously, they did it last year with basically nothing. 9-3, though, says, okay, who are they losing to, Washington or Ohio State? If it's Ohio State, all of a sudden, then I think you've got a lot of pressure on Sherrone Moore. If it's Washington and they miss the playoffs, you still have pressure on Sherrone Moore, but a lot more fan goodwill if you end up beating Ohio State again. I don't know how much that Ohio State game is going to give him in terms of time, but I know that it will help one way or another. So if Michigan beats Ohio State, I don't think that they make a change at head coach. If they lose to Ohio State and Washington, is it possible? Yeah, I think it could be. And I understand the reasons that a lot of people are saying it should be possible and frankly should happen and should have already happened, which no, it should not have already happened. I understand that their reasoning is because, quite frankly, the team just doesn't look good against quality competition. The tackling is atrocious. The defense shows up and shows out one day, and then the next day it's like they don't exist. The offense, sometimes they're firing on all cylinders. Other times they're not going anywhere. They are incredibly inconsistent. Fundamentally, they are not sound. Michigan cannot defend against screen passes. They can't defend against counters. USC ran screens and counters all over them. And Wink Martindale didn't do a single thing to adjust to that. You look at the coach's demeanor on the sidelines. I mean, Wink Martindale and Sherrone Moore both just look like they're staring, like they have the 1,000-yard stare the entire time. I don't think I've seen Sherrone Moore yell at the ref one single time. And I'm not saying he should necessarily, but where's the emotion? Both him and Wink Martindale just stand there stone-faced, Wink Martindale, after USC scored, I think they went up 21-7 or something. Wink Martindale just stood there and looked confused. Like, do something, say something. And I think that's why a lot of fans are kind of starting to lose confidence in Sherrone Moore. To me, I'm a numbers guy. I'm looking at the fact that, like, if you look at Michigan here on ESPN, their rankings, passing yards, they're 95th. Now, that's still maybe atrocious because that 95 doesn't look great, but they were 132nd or something like that last season. They were ranked, I think, lower than the service academies was the point, but it doesn't really matter. All of these numbers are technically an improvement over last season. Maybe not points against. So technically speaking, statistically speaking, Michigan is actually getting better. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, Washington's going to be a test, but they are favored. So let's just say Michigan beats Washington. Then they go into the Ohio State game at 9-2. They beat Ohio State. They end up going 10-2. They get double-digit wins. They're in the playoffs. And they're probably in the Big Ten championship at that point. Maybe just on the outside because Oregon and Indiana will probably have it at that point. But at that point, they're 10-2 and they're in the playoffs. You absolutely keep Sherrone Moore if that happens. 9-3, I could go either way. It depends on how that 9-3 looks. Michigan's competition up until Ohio State is fairly weak, apart from Washington. So if Michigan struggles against any of them, even if they pull out the win, you do have to start asking some questions. Not start, because we're starting to ask questions right now. I mean, look at this Wisconsin game. This should not have been close. This was 24-10. This should have been a 56-0. New Mexico should have been 45-10, maybe. Oklahoma looks like a great team, although they just lost to Texas. I don't know what that means for Texas anymore, but Arch Manning seems to have figured something out. Nebraska scored on a couple of miracles. Congratulations to them. So I guess the issue right now is that fundamentally, Michigan is technically winning games. They're winning games that they're supposed to win. The USC game, maybe they weren't supposed to win that. Maybe they were. I think that they weren't actually supposed to win that. And if you talk to fans before the season, I mean, we talked about this on the channel, that before the season, we thought, maybe 9-3 is the floor and 12-0 was the ceiling. And one of those three was likely going to be USC. I mean, the entire season we had been looking at that USC game like, okay, that's a bellwether. If they beat USC, then they're for sure going to end up making a run at Ohio State, possibly at the Big Ten. And then maybe they see a first or second round exit in the playoffs. Losing to USC, though, we didn't think was going to be the end of the world because we were still projecting, okay, maybe 9-3, 10-2 at that point. I personally didn't think that we'd lose to Oklahoma. I completely underestimated Oklahoma and maybe overestimated Sherrone Moore's willingness to let Bryce Underwood throw and run. But of course, as I said after that game, if you were going to lose a game, that was the game to lose. If you really didn't, it's not necessarily that they couldn't afford to lose to USC, because you really can't. I mean, in this new Big Ten where there's no divisions, you really can't afford a loss to anybody. Technically, they're still in it, but they have to get some help. But technically, they're still in the running for the playoffs. The trouble is that this just feels like a really tenuous grasp on a 9-3, 10-2 season. This feels like they are a loss to Washington away from dropping a stunner against possibly Maryland and then also Ohio State. They finished 7-5. I don't see any way that we lose to Michigan State. They're terrible this year, and I think Jonathan Smith's on his way out. The problem is, though, is that I have with this is that at 9-3, they're still talking like Sherrone Moore should be on the hot seat. That's improvement over last season, so that by itself I don't think should put Sherrone Moore on the hot seat. What I think should put Sherrone Moore on the hot seat is the fact that fundamentally speaking, this team is undisciplined. This team does not play basic fundamental football well. I mean, we literally have wide receivers who can't catch the ball. The last couple of weeks have looked good with Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh, which I don't know if you guys caught it, but during the intro video, my wife pronounced Andrew Marsh, Andrew March. That wasn't her fault. I typed that in the script. That is my fault. But they've come out as the last couple of weeks as Michigan's as viable receivers for Michigan's passing attack. Where was I going with that point? I don't remember. But I think at this point you do, if you do say that Sherrone Moore is on the hot seat, it is because of the tenuous grasp on success that Michigan has right now. Michigan, the standard at Michigan is that you don't lose to USC. And the people who say that Sherrone Moore is on the hot seat because of USC, I understand it completely. My rebuttal to that would be USC has the third best offense in the country. USC has a vastly improved defense, although it's still not good. Really not good, actually. Michigan had to fly to the other side of the country. Very few teams have success doing that. Michigan started a true freshman at quarterback again. And yeah, he's a great true freshman quarterback, but he is still a true freshman quarterback. I'm not going to say too much about the refs, although I will say that was sus, to say the least. But you can't blame the refs for a loss. I think that if the refs called a perfect game, Michigan still loses. Maybe it's only by a score at that point. I don't think it's really the blowout necessarily that it ended up being, but it is what it is. So do I personally have Sherrone Moore on the hot seat? I'm going to totally fence sit here and say kind of. Because from a numbers standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, from a wins-losses standpoint, so far we are seeing improvement over last season. What we're not seeing is dominant football the way that we're used to from Michigan, especially in the trenches. That's really the biggest concern. The trenches got bullied against USC. Our O-line and D-line are leaps and bounds away from where they were even just last season and certainly the season before. And that's really what concerns me the most, is that Sherrone Moore is an offensive guru, or he's an offensive-minded guy. So why does the offense seem not very good? And who is the one behind the scenes not letting Bryce Underwood play football? Why aren't we running Bryce Underwood the way that we know we can run him? Again, somebody rather reasonably would say true freshman, and they'd be right. It just doesn't seem like Michigan really wants to run him the way that maybe they need to. An optimist would say that maybe Sherrone Moore is saving everything for next season, that we're using this as a rebuilding year. And if a rebuilding year for Michigan is 9-3, cool. That's not bad. It's an improvement over last year, and I think that they'll get there next year, and maybe they will get there next year. They've got a great recruiting class coming in, but again, those kids will need a little bit of time and development as well, but Michigan should be at least better. The problem is that their schedule is a lot tougher next year. Although Penn State will get a new coach, so maybe they're not a threat very much. But, yeah, I guess those are just kind of my very unstructured, sporadic thoughts on what's going on right now. I guess just to summarize, if I were to put Sherrone Moore on the hot seat, it is because Michigan does not play fundamentally sound football. They're not tackling well. They're not playing offense consistently well. The defense sometimes shows up when they want to. Sometimes they don't. Neither Sherrone Moore nor Wink Martindale really show a ton of emotion on the sideline. It's like they're both kind of stuck in limbo, not really sure what to do. And then, stunts like this that Sherrone Moore pulled at his press conference today are just not going to help anything. He was asked this is from Brad Galley. He was asked what the overall message to his team is after the loss to USC. And he said, quote, "The message is pretty simple. We go back to work. That's why I have the blue collar jacket on." All right. Gimmicks like this are not going to get you anywhere. This is so cringy, in my opinion. This is just silly. oh, he wore a blue collar jacket to the press conference today. That means he's serious. No, what means you're serious is that you don't get blown out by a team that refuses to play defense. By a team that, Lincoln Riley is an offensive genius. Sure, but what was that defense? Your quarterback threw 207 yards against USC and you still lost. I mean, there was a point where Michigan could put up 150 yards rushing, which there's part of the issue, and have the quarterback throw for 150 yards and still win by multiple scores. And also, that kind of brings me to another point, actually. Justice Haynes goes out with the injury, and then after the game, Sherrone Moore says that he could have come back in. Why didn't he? We needed him. But now all of a sudden today, he's saying that he's optimistic that we'll get Justice Haynes back for the game against Washington. So which is it? Could he have come back in against USC? Could he not have? Is he playing against Washington? What was the extent of the injury, and why are we getting so many mixed messages from Sherrone Moore? That's something that I've noticed with him, is that he kind of contradicts himself and does it quickly. Sometimes he does it in the same press conference. That's really frustrating. So Justice Haynes leaves the game. We needed him. Why was he held out if he could have come back in? That's a ridiculous thing. And then so 2 minutes left in the game and you put Jaden Davis in? I get it. We're not winning the game at that point. But you've got another opportunity to give Bryce Underwood a 2-minute drill situation, get him some more reps and get him some more experience. And you take him out and put in Jaden Davis, and I don't know what is wrong with his mechanics, but whatever you taught him, you need to apologize, because that kid was a very talented high school quarterback, and his career has completely derailed because of what happened with whoever taught him his throwing mechanics. I mean, what is it? Bringing the football all the way back here, pulling it up, and then throwing it. You will get strip sacked every single time. And he did once. Of course, he wasn't in a throwing motion. He just didn't see what was going on behind him, and our offensive line was a freaking sieve all day. I said I was only going to go for 10 minutes, maybe 15, and now I've gone for 20. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there, but I want to know from you. Do you think that Sherrone Moore should be on the hot seat? Why or why not? Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you don't mind giving this video a like and subscribing, that would be amazing. Also, say something nice about my wife's narration in the comment section, because I thought she did an awesome. It was a lot of fun recording with her. I really enjoyed that. And we'll catch you guys in the next video.